Hello guys, and welcome to another replay analysis. Today we're going to be looking at a Zerg versus Terran at a 4.2k MMR, which is a diamond level. That's like mid-diamondish, I think. Or it's high diamond maybe even. I can't remember, but it's 4.2k. That's like, I think it's actually high diamond. Anyways, let's jump into it, shall we? Shall we? 4.2k that's the cusp, okay? That's the cusp to just having a breakthrough and shooting up to 5k. Alright, so if you guys don't know how replay analysis work, if this is your first time ever seeing one of these things, what we do is we break down the person's play that I am currently watching, and today we're looking at Hard Nepper. And we basically, for lack of a better way to say this, just help them get better at StarCraft. So far, against Terran, the build is completely fine. If you want my, it's a little bit of a helpful piece of advice, but we talked about this before. Drone stacking, you don't have to worry as much about drone stacking every patch all the time perfectly. I mean, it's ideal if you do that, but at the very least, you do want to drone stack your close patches. And we can see there's 16 out of 16 already on this mineral line, but this patch right here has 3 on it, and this patch over here only has 1. And having a drone missing on a close patch is actually a little bit impactful. So I would say when you're in the early stages of the game and you're just building an overlord and you're kind of chilling doing nothing, at the very least try your best to make sure all the close patches are stacked. And a way you can also, if you don't know as well, if you're like, ViBE, sometimes I can't really tell like which one of these is close and which one of these is far. Anything with a high amount is a close patch, and anything with a low amount is a far patch, if you want to just physically click them and see that. So you do have 3 on a close patch over here as well, but yeah, it's important. Makes every timer go faster. Okay, now we're gonna see your build order is fine though. I would like it though. This is another example of just like it's making you fall further behind. The only time I feel like it would ever really make sense to stack your gas as fast as possible is if you're going to do a timing. If you're going to do some type of a timing and you need the gas as quick as you can, because if this is for defensive purposes, it doesn't serve any purpose to rip off your minerals to fill your gas up, because you're not going to, having a quicker speed isn't going to make or break anything for you. There's only one build Terran can do to you that would actually make a difference. If you got, so as you can see, you're pulling off 2, so this is defensive purposes. This is macro purposes. The only build that would make sense to get really quick gas against that Terran could do to you defensively, for like the fastest circling speed you could do, where it would make any of your drones get ripped off the mineral line, would be 3 racks Reaper. Like, we're talking no expansion, just mass Reapers. Because that would be all about the quicker you get to speed, the more likely you're going to survive. And it's less likely you're going to get all your drones overpowered and killed and your queens will die, and etc, etc, etc. But in the current meta of StarCraft, that build is super rare. I would say I would see that build appear once out of every 100 Terran games I would play. Like, I don't see that build ever, really. It's really, really rare. And again, it is minor, but the reason why we talk about this so much is because every single second of a game in StarCraft, like the first second of a game in StarCraft is the most important second out of the entire game. And then every second beyond that is also very important, but every second that goes by is less important than the next in terms of properly setting up your build. And if your build has any deviations at all, it makes your build fall behind for no reason. And a lot of reasons why people lose games and get stuck in certain places and don't realize how they can get better is because they have all these little hiccups in their build. for no reason. You have to really respect the fact that drones need to be made as fast as possible, and you really need to optimally saturate
drones are getting wrecked.
as much as you can.
Your queen is here. It's time to inject, spread creep, and transfuse.
Okay, and this is something also I don't agree with. You are going for a really fast third, which is fine. I don't have a problem with that. And you're also spreading your creep towards your third. And the only thing I do have a problem with this right now is your opponent is not doing anything all in. So sacrificing the larva on your natural right now is not worth it, in my opinion. Like, if we're really thinking about the build, okay? Let's think about the options here. You just scouted your turn opponent is going for an expansion early. He went Rax, Command Center, Reactor, Factory, which means he's going to go Hellions, right? Now, we haven't seen further into his base. We don't know what else he's capable of yet. In terms of like what he's going to do after it, he could go for a second factory. He could go for a starport. There's a few options he has, but so far we know he's going to be opening up with Hellions, and he's also going to be opening up with an expansion, which means he's going to be playing for the macro game. Now, when you think about the strengths and weaknesses of your build versus his build, one of the strengths of your build is that you're going for a third base really fast, and he does not really have the ability to kill your third really early. Already. Because if 2 Hellions get made and they go across the map, if 2 Hellions sit here just roasting the hatchery on Hellion attack mode, that hatchery is never going to die for a very long... It's not going to die for a long time. It would take 2 Hellions probably like 5 minutes to kill a hatchery. And then if he makes 4 Hellions, you know, 4 Hellions also will kill a hatchery super slow. And the scarier thing for you, I would say, is what he's most likely going to do, instead of trying to kill your hatchery, he's going to actually probably try to drive into your mineral line and kill any drones that he can. And creep isn't really going to make or break that if he just goes for your drones. But if he does go for your drones, let's say you lose 0, okay? Well, like, awesome. You have a creep tumor, you lost 0 drones. Like, wonderful. That's great. You killed the Hellions. But you could totally do the same thing without a creep tumor first, but then you'd have more drones anyways. And if you know, let's something bad happens, where let's say you do lose drones, let's say you lost 3 drones, you would actually be in the same place you're at now. Like, sure, your creep is going to be a little bit nicer because of this, but you've effectively already lost 3 drones, and it's almost equivalent to the opener of the build here. To now, you're basically saying, oh, 3 of my drones just died, for instance. More or less. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it's kind of the same thing. Because you just have less larva now in the early game, and you're having less mining overall. And there's nothing this guy can do to you early game now that's going to punish you fast enough for this to warrant this first creep tumor. I would say creep is still great, right? But I would say you'd be much better off in making our creep tumor with your next queen, which I also recommend you make when you are. So this queen in the hatchery should be the one throwing a tumor down. This is just another thing where you're gonna start struggling on, you know, keeping a lead over the Terran. Because when a game is in a situation where neither player is really attacking the other one, and you're both just reacting to what you see each other doing, the worst thing you can do is overreact to what your opponent's doing and fall behind. Although this is not the worst thing, and what I talked about earlier, the mineral stacking, the one drone being ripped off a little bit earlier than it should have been, and the creep tumor first, each one of those things is not the worst thing in the world, but all 3 of those things being added up together starts getting kind of impactful. It's a lot of little things that are continuously happening that are making you fall further behind.
Careful now, their units are fighting yours.
And also, when you go for, so I'm going to pause it again. When you go for, I would say when you go for, like, we're going to see your style in a second, but when you go for a third base, and you delay your gas like this, like you're not continuously mining the gas, you are very much not being, this is definitely not an all-in. We can clearly see that. And the only time I would say you can kind of get away with not making extra queens rapidly is when you're going to do it all in, because you need the money elsewhere. You need it for a roach warren. You need it for a baneling nest. You need it for your larva to be constantly spamming roaches and lings or whatever, and you're gonna be really aggressive. That's fine if you kind of skip your queens on that. But like the one big problem I'm seeing here for you is your main base only made 1 queen and it just stopped. Your natural made 1 extra queen and it has also stopped. And you have a ton of idle time on your hatcheries. And I feel like if your opponent goes for aggression, going for like you can see you have no larva right now either, so you are spending what you have. But you're very vulnerable to an attack as well. Like if this guy mixes in a Banshee or a BC, obviously we're not there yet, but the lack of queens is definitely kind of alarming. It's concerning, and we'll see how long you delay your Bane nest for or your roach warren for. But if you skip queens really heavy, the only other way around it is you have to make a tech unit. You can't just rely on just lings, because if he goes hellbats, you're absolutely fucked. Like you just lose. What rank is this? This is diamond level. Yo, thank you for the sub, Mouth Puncher. Much appreciated, man. And this is what I'm talking about. So we skipped a larva inject, and the first 2 hellions go, you know what? YOLO. We're running in. And we already lose 1 drone. To be fair, this guy would have lost his hellions if he would have kept going around, but queens are not faster than hellions by any means. A queen's move speed is almost half of a hellion. Almost, not quite. It's like 60%. But there could have been more drone deaths here as well. Like I feel like it would have been very realistic for this guy to have killed like 3 drones and then his hellions would die. If he would have drove back down here one more time and roasted this section before your lings spawn, and your queens come down and smack him some more. And maybe if he micros well, he can maybe kill a couple of drones up here. He tagged earlier as well. It's just kind of it's risky, and this is what I'm talking about. Like we have there honestly could be more queens out than this right now, and you could even have lings covering, etc, etc, etc. And this first creep tumor, realistically, what did it do? If we really break it down, your queen was sitting here anyways, and the queen and the creep tumor have pretty much like the same vision, I would say. Like you saw this coming either way, and if your creep, let's just say this was your this tumor right here starting was actually this one. This creep tumor was the now starting. You would have more drones than you do right now, because you would have also maybe even have more larvae to make lings with. And the creep would be starting to spread, and it would be fine. But like the creep didn't do anything to stop this from happening. And this is another thing, even though you only lost 1 drone, it's just another thing. A little tiny thing adding up again. And a big thing we're going to look at is we're going to look at your supply ratio to his throughout the game. But little things do add up pretty hard. Do you think it's weird to start a gas when the main gas isn't saturated? No. It's completely standard to take your second gas when your natural is fully saturated, because you will resaturate your main and your natural gas. If you wanted to be really nitpicky and say when to make this but again, this is like a little thing again, right? It's a little thing that adds up again. The perfect time to make this gas would be the second you start oversaturating your mineral line. So drone 17 makes this. You make more drones. Drones, once again, drone 17, 18, 19, saturate this. You try to leave 16 on here the entire time if you can. If you're playing flawless. So, you know, not ripping your drones off is ideal. And he took it. He took this gas when he already still had 16. The only reason why it says 15 is because one of the drones died to a hellion. So he did it fine. I have no problems with it. And then his next drones that he makes should saturate these gases.
Your opponent. Your upgrade has... The enemy is killing your creep tumors.
And that's what he's doing. He's saturating the gas with new drones. So I approve of your gas. Like, the gas was maybe, you know... It wasn't even early. It was fine. Like I just explained it. Like, it wasn't even one of his existing drones. It's just because the hellions died. The lack of lings was the problem here, and it would be easier to have lings plus your drone saturated like optimally If you have the maximum larva you can possibly get, which is don't skip and inject for your first queens and keep it rolling the entire time. Yo, Hypno Butler, thank you very much for the 49 months, man. Much appreciated. That's a big sub. Thank you, dude. And then I want to see like I know you were getting attacked when you made lings, but here's the thing. If these hellions push in and you make queens optimally, okay? These hellions push in and you have currently made queens optimally. You should totally have 4 queens right now, 4 of them, and 3 of them should be down near your natural. This is just how it should go. Because it's like you can see you have 3 queens already, which means it's more than enough time for your one of your like for a hatchery to have built 2 queens out of 1. And I would have loved it if there would have been like maybe like double queens being made, just because you're delaying your gas, which again is totally fine. I think it's a great build. This is a great build that pairs up with a 3rd base really fast. And a great way to defend a 3rd base really fast is or really the better way to say this is a great way to make use of a 3rd base that's really fast is to make drones as hard as you can, but on top of that have queen cover, have some queen coverage, because queens not only can help defend really well early against multiple different types of builds Terran can throw at you, especially variations of 1-1-1 or tech fast, but queens are also really good at the aftermath of when the attack is over. They can just be like creep everywhere, and then suddenly, because you've optimized your build a little bit better with your minerals, you're affording to make more queens. The idea of getting a tumor really quick, really fast early, and being like, I'm gonna just get that creep going really quick, it sounds good, but what if you actually made your economy a little bit harder and you protected it a little bit better early on because you have more larvae to work with, and that allows you to make more queens faster, and now you have more queens spreading creep right after the initial part. And now instead of having only 1 tumor actively going out here on the side, you have 2. But you could have 2 queens popping tumors down instead of 1 early. It wouldn't be as early as your first tumor, but by the time you put the 2nd tumor down, you would have 2 tumors being put down anyways. But now the difference is you have 4 queens instead of 3. And you have more drones constantly mining for you from then on as well, the whole time. I would 100% agree with your tumor first if this guy was not expanding. But if he is expanding, it doesn't really have a purpose, because this hatchery will never die to hellions. Like for the time it would, you know, it'll never die to hellions at the very early stage where this first creep tumor would change that. Like, you're not gonna have 2 queens walk over here and stop 2 hellions from killing your hatchery. That's just not realistic. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, by the time you get your 2nd set of queens, your 3rd and 4th queen out, you could then spread creep to your 3rd base, and then you would still be able to protect it in time from something that actually would kill the hatchery. So it doesn't change anything. It doesn't change the overall outcome. I like your scout.
Hey, a new queen was just
Seeing this scout, I would immediately think to myself, there is a potential this barracks is fake. It's not a guarantee, but at the very least, you are going to be most likely going up against Hellion Banshee. If I saw this, there's no guarantee this is going to be like a for sure thing from the barracks though. But the thing that's weird though, which is it makes it seem more of a likely scenario, is you didn't see a single building around the barracks that was going to rotate with the tech lab. So that means he built the tech lab really early. So, you know, that's something to consider, and that makes you go, maybe it will be a sure thing. It's still a kind of a question mark. People do crazy shit, but I would be thinking right now, these are the possibilities, okay? After seeing what you just saw, you have the possibility of very likely Hellion Banshee harass into maybe even Marauders coming with it as well, which is super fucking all in. So something to look for right now would be look and see if he takes a 3rd base. If he does take a really early 3rd base, this is less likely to be the case because it's really expensive. He would need a lot of gas to be able to pump Banshees, Cloak, Concussive Shells, Marauders. It would definitely delay his 3rd. If you see a faster 3rd, I would think, okay, maybe he's gonna go into more of like a standard transition afterwards. He's gonna go for like a 3rd base, maybe throw down some more barracks, maybe this would actually be stim pack, and he's by the time stim pack's done, maybe he just rotates it over with the reactor, and then he starts going into siege tanks, or something like that. Or maybe he even rotates over, like, after he makes a couple Banshees, he could also rotate over the starport with the factory and start making tanks and medevacs, etc., etc., etc. The 2 Marines being here I would say it makes me feel like maybe it wouldn't be a Marauder, because that's what just killed your Overlord. He doesn't have a Viking, he has Marines instead. Then normally if someone wants to go for a Marauder timing, they would want to clump Marauders up as much as they could. So all these things are things you would look at to be able to break his build down. And like, you know, there's a lot of possibilities, right? I'm throwing like tons of possibilities at you here. But if you're to take all these possibilities and look at what you just see in general, you go, all right, Banshees are a possibility, Hellions are a definite, he already has some, and there's a possibility he's going to go into bio after this. Repeatedly scouting after this would be a great thing to do, but that's what you can kind of take away from this. It's no guarantee on anything yet. It could still totally be a transition into something else. He doesn't have to commit to it yet, but I would say it looks like it's probably going to be Hellion Banshee into a possible bio follow-up because he's only making Marines so far. But it's still, scouting is, again, scouting is important, and I would say the best way to do it would be, I love your Overlord placement to see what he's doing. And now here's the thing.
Yeah.
Do you remember what I said about the 3rd command center timing? The faster the 3rd, the less likely it's all in. See how this SCV is chilling and not in a depot spot? A depot spot, it would be chilling right there. You're not going to build a depot in the middle of the fucking here because this is awkward as hell. No one does that. It would be started right there. Like the SCV would be chilling right here to start another depot if it was going to come here. So seeing that SCV already would make me think, if I saw this, there's going to be a command center being thrown down because it's just, you know, it's more in the center. Doesn't necessarily have to be in the center, but like he's getting ready to build a CC. I would expect a CC, and there you go. The second you see that command center, you immediately go, it's not Marauders. It could be, but it would be a very weak all-in if he went for a Marauder. Because this now tells you there is no gas here. There is no gas. You know there's no gas here, but this guarantees there's no gas here. And trying to squeeze out Cloak, Concussive Shells, Banshees, Marauders, off of, and also an Armory, off of 2 gases, is that all the timings would be more delayed, more delayed, more delayed. And look, no gas, as we can see. So this is more of a mineral-based build. We know he has double gas in his main. That's very standard. But we know he's not going for this high gas all-in just because of how early this 3rd is. So again, once you see that 3rd, it's more information that tells you mineral-focused build. So we're talking about a mineral-focused setup, and a mineral-focused setup, and it's especially since he's also making Marines, kind of confirms that this is most likely Stimpak now. Because now it's or he could overall cancel it still, but it rules out the possibility of Marauder all in, is what I'm just basically trying to say. That's a big one, which means there's a very low chance there's going to be an Armory involved with this, and if there's no Armory, it's way less pressure. I would say you could make less Banes or less Roaches and focus more on just Queens, and you'd be fine. Queens are still really important either way. But you don't need to make, like, you know, if normally when you fight against people who do a build that looks like it's going to be like Hellbat, Medevac Marine, or Hellbat Banshee or some shit, maybe you're the kind of guy that's like, I like to make about 12 Banes against that, or 10 Banes, or 10 Roaches. You definitely don't need to do that now because he's got a 3rd CC. You could get away with like 0 Banes, or like 4, or like a couple of Roaches, and you'd be totally fine. If you had either one of those buildings, is what I'm saying. I hope it's making sense. Like, you can tell he's being economical and he's not being all in. So you don't need to have an all in defense. Yo, Solaris, CS, and the Eigen Critic, thank you guys very much for the subs. Love you guys. I'm doing a replay analysis right now. I appreciate it very much, though, guys.
Your queen is
And I go back to America on Monday. Okay, so we have double Evo and a Baneling Nest.
Are taking damage.
And this is another thing too. Hold on, we'll see how long it takes. I'm watching. I think this is something that, once again, it's not a huge deal. It's another little thing. But again, and the way StarCraft works is the little things add up. The little things, they repeatedly add up. And if you have too many little things that go wrong, it's gonna develop a major problem for your build. And another thing that's going wrong for you, I would say, is you're making your stuff a little bit too fast, and you're also which in turn it's undersaturating your mineral lines. You have 13. You had 13 a second ago, and you have Evo chambers now that are ready to go. And what this does to you, look at your larva. You have 5. If you wanted to make the most out of this, okay, for the timing that you built your Evo chambers, what that means you have to do now is not only undersaturate your mineral line, but you also now have to delay your larva spending to make your upgrades. So this is like it's like a double negative for your economy, because not only do you undersaturate for a period of time, but you're extending that period of time because now you need to also tech into something, like your research, your upgrade. It delays your overall build a lot. So a good way to do this, a great way to set up your timing of your evos, would be spend all your larva first. Larva is always the priority. And I know a lot of people have like these things in their builds where they're like, all right, I take my evos, let's just say at 5 minutes or 4:30 or some shit, or the second I'm fully saturated on 2 bases, I take evos. You know, it could be something like that, where that's your idea. But realistically, the huge thing about it is you just need to make sure you have your larva spent as a priority all the time. That is always the priority. There should never be a reason why your larva is not getting spent first. It's rare as fuck. It's very, 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 very important. And then once you, like, let's say all your larvae is spent, okay, and you have all your hatcheries like they are rallied to your 3rd base, and let's say you have 3. Let's just say instead of these zerglings, these were drones. Once all your larvae is spent, you're still 16 out of 16. You've never disrupted that. You're still 16 out of 16. You also have never disrupted that, ideally. Disrupting your natural is not as important as disrupting your main, by the way. I'll explain that why in a second. But again, if you didn't disrupt any of your mineral lines and you had drones being built and they were going to your 3rd, you could literally just catch them or grab the eggs when you see them, when you know you have all your spending done, and then you could be like, no, let's just build some evos now. Then it would be a good time. You built these a little too early, and now it's having this, it's a massive hiccup on your build. It's just huge because you have the drones being ripped off, you have the expenses of building the buildings themselves, and then you're saving money now to actually upgrade these said buildings, which is overall stopping your drone count, your production of drones, for a long time. Like, check this out. Alright, let's see you start the buildings. So I want to see the second you start them. And I can see your supply block too, which is unfortunate. But right now you have 6 larvae. If you were not supply blocked right now, which you're about to not be really soon, you would be able to make 6 drones and have 120 minerals left over right this second. Actually, yeah. 6 drones and have 120, which is not enough for Evo Bane. Which would mean you'd have to save a little bit to be able to get Evo Bane, because Evo Chamber Baneling Nest is 250 minerals. The gas doesn't matter because you have plenty of gas for it right now, but 250 minerals is the bottom line of what you would need, and you would need to save for that, so you'd have to wait a little bit of time. And while you're waiting a little bit of time, there's a very high chance one of your hatcheries will most likely generate another larva, if not all of them will, depending on your last drone that was made. So maybe your expenses for drones, instead of being at 300, now go to 450 because another 3 larvae was ready to go. And those take priority. It would delay your upgrades by maybe only like 12 seconds, 10 seconds, but it would not delay your economy at all. But now let's look at this. You started it. You started the Evo Bane. We ripped some workers off the mineral line. And we have 1 drone being produced right now.
Shoot to your army. It's under attack.
He's posturing around your base. And now we have more drones being made. By another 3 after the first one. But an Evo Chamber's build time is 25 seconds, right? It's 25 seconds. So you made 1 drone right around the time you started these buildings. Roughly around the time you started. Like, it was like 5 seconds after it started you made a drone. And then now you started a few more drones like 8 seconds after that. Or 7 seconds after that. So you're like, and these drones that are being made are also drones that are supposed to be replacing the drones that are ripped off your mineral line. And this is just a lot of time where you're not having drones mining. And then on top of that, now we can see there's spores because you're the Banshees here. That's fine. Also, the other thing too, this is another thing. I would have actually prioritized. I like that you built spores. I think your spores are a little bit late. This is something that can't really wait very much. But I basically would have just preferred it if your evos were delayed a little bit longer. And you spent your money first, and from what you scouted, you actually prioritized making spores because you know Banshees are coming. You should know Banshees are coming from this. Like if it's 1-1-1 and he's committed to a tech lab like this, it's gonna be at least 1 Banshee. The only other option would be a battlecruiser, and judging off of how fast he made a 3rd command center, possibly not gonna, very likely not gonna be a battlecruiser. Normally, if you make a battlecruiser, a 3rd command center with a battlecruiser build, you do a command center after the BC because the BC is so fucking expensive. In terms of minerals, a BC and a command center cost the same cost. It's 400. So, yeah, seeing the 3rd CC, that would reinforce my thought of going, yeah, it's Banshees. This build is gonna be harassment focused, which is it means he doesn't have a fusion core. That's expensive. It means he's not getting a BC. That's also expensive. It means he's going for the cheaper option, which is a Banshee, and he's also researching this. So even the fact that he was double researching upgrades in his tech labs, even more so rules out the fact that he could have a fusion core and a BC going. Also with the fact that he took a 3rd CC. Like all those things together rule out a BC, which is the only other thing I feel like you would ever want to be worried about. Because it can teleport into your base right away, and if you don't have spores, every Zerg knows how shitty that is. But there's the order of the production of buildings here. These are just too early, and it's gonna give a huge hindrance to your build. Now here's one thing we're gonna look at.
Careful now, their units are fighting yours.
We're gonna look at the second the Evo chambers are done, which is 5 minutes. Let's watch and see how much time goes by before they get used. And then, you know, we're looking at your spinning as well. You have 7 larvae still chilling. Ten larvae. You're making Banes. You see, this is kind of like coming back to what we talked about earlier. I think you're making these Banes because you're worried about a Hellbat timing. And judging off, again, I'm not saying you shouldn't make a Bane nest, and I'm not saying that, you know, it's a bad idea to make Banes. But what I am saying is this is excessive for what you scouted. And what you scouted was a fast 3rd CC, which is very unlike, like, there should not be an armory in this guy's base. If he takes a 3rd CC that fast and he just shows it to you, there is no armory. An armory, and also the fact that he was, the fact that he was also making Banshees with a cloak upgrade. That, like, these costs are it's just too much. Like, his money was very well spent on his production he had earlier in the game. And you saw with your Overlord that he took he took a 3rd command center when his natural only had like 5 SCVs on it. Or 4 SCVs on it. That's so fast. It's super fast. So there's, this is definitely an overreaction, because I think what you're thinking right now is, I don't want to die to a Hellbat timing. I'm good. I don't want to die to Hellbats. But he physically can't afford that. And for what he can, even if he did go Hellbats, you got to keep this in mind. This is the thing where I think I lose a lot of people, and they get kind of confused, but I'll try to explain it my best. Even if he did do a Hellbat timing, because he still could. It would not be a real Hellbat timing. It would be a much weaker version of a Hellbat timing because of how quickly he took a third base. So yeah, like I can't rule out the fact that he could still build an armory, but the difference would be is if this was a legit Hellbat timing and there was no third base here, when if he decided, you know what, it's time to attack you now with my 8 Hellbats and my 2 Banshees, it would be 8 Hellbats and 2 Banshees, and you would be like, holy shit, if I don't have like 9 Banes, I'm gonna die. And I would agree with you. But if he takes the third base this fast, instead of having 8 Hellbats and 2 Banshees, now it would be like 4 Hellbats and 1 or 2 Banshees. Because he's invested more into his economy earlier, so it delays his timing. And if he goes for the same timing that you go for with an all-in, it'll just be a weaker version of it. The only way now he would be able to get like the same amount of units if he because he invested into his economy early. The only way he would be able to get the same amount of units with someone who does like a very timing-centric version of the build would be if it hits later. Like now we're talking about the only way he's going to have 8 Hellbats and 2 Banshees would be like now if it's the timing is delayed by 45 seconds up to a minute. And suddenly that's another 45 seconds to a minute that you have to prepare even more stuff. So you'll have just an even bigger defense. Like you should have, you know, like if the timing hits 45 seconds later, obviously the way StarCraft works is your base will just be more established at that point. So this is a humongous overreaction for what you're doing. Seeing a third base like this, you could, like I said before, 111 third CC, you could totally get by easily with just queens. Like we're talking like 8 queens or 9 queens in total. Like you could have 1 per hatchery, and then you could have like 6 roaming queens or something, and you'd be totally fine. And then 1 spore per base is still required because of the fact that he could have cloak banshees. But I'm very worried now for your overall follow-up to this, because this, I'm gonna say this right now. If this was like a Masters game, like we're talking like 5k MMR, you've already lost the game right now. Because even if you don't die to Hellbats, you've put yourself in such a bad negative position with your economy that this guy is going to just murder you in the next 5 minutes anyways. So it's reacting properly is very important for reactionary playstyle for Zerg, which is kind of what I think you're doing.
Look at that, your queen is ready.
And you're making more lings right now. It's just overcommitted. And then also you're delaying. Look at your larva. Sorry, I'm gonna go right before you start the upgrades. Look at the larva. You have 11 larvae again right now. Like your third base needs to be fully saturated by now. But you have 0, or you have 1 drone coming. I think it is. I don't know if it's that one. It's not this one. It's this drone right here. He's going to your third. You have it's just too much of other shit. It's too much worrying about the possible all-in, which you should know is not happening, and it's also too much expenses and things that are. These things are great in a macro game. They're like if the game goes to like 20 minutes, you know, obviously you're not going to want to be in a position where you're like, I'm fucking 0-0. My opponent's 3-3. Oh god, I'm gonna die. Like that. Obviously, no one wants to be like that. It does mean you're gonna lose very likely. But if these things were delayed just by like 1 minute, you would still be 3-3, like at a very good timing. But now suddenly your army size is just so much bigger throughout the entire game because of the fact that this is not being neglected. The most important part of every single build for Zerg is this right here, your larva. How much can you generate? How good are you at generating it, and how good are you at then also using it and spinning it? And if you're really good at generating it but not spinning it, that's a problem. If you're not good at generating it, that's an even bigger problem. Because the thing you got to keep in mind is, the golden rule of Zerg is, if there are 3 larvae on a hatchery, this one has 5, this one has 5, this one has 1. If there are 3 larvae on a hatchery, it no longer automatically poops a larva out. It just stops. It ceases. It does not do anymore. So, trying your best to maintain 1 or 2 larvae, or 0, 1 or 2 larvae on every hatchery at all times is ideal. And then you obviously have those things where the inject pops off, and you could have 4 for a moment, or something like if 1 spawns and 3 more pop off the inject, you have 4, but then you immediately spend it within 1 or 2 seconds of the inject popping off. That's very okay. That's kind of how the game works. That's fine. But if you're letting larvae just kind of stack up on bases like this for a while, it's like you're losing army supply. It'd be like, imagine if these lings, imagine instead of having 21 lings right now, you had 50 or 40. Let's just say 40. You have all like double the lings right now, but then you just take like 20 of them off and you go, all right, just walk over here, and they all just die to hellions for no reason. That's seriously kind of like what just happened, because even though you're not taking the resources lost of that and you're not physically losing those units, you are losing the larva to produce units like that, and that's time you're never going to get back. So you don't just suddenly get to like make up the difference and be like, I'll get those units back as fast as I can. It's time you don't get back now.
Look at that. A creep tumor is under attack.
And then we're going to look at your larva again. You have 15 right now. And you're prioritizing your expenses on 1-1. This build overall, honestly, is just way too inefficient. These upgrades, the best way to look at an upgrade is, again, it is just an addition. It's an addition to a perfect economy. You only add in upgrades when your economy is flowing as fast as it can. You do not halt your economy to start upgrades. That's not good. The only time it would ever make sense to halt economy to do anything is if you're going to all in your opponent. Is the only time. Or if it's like a timing. Like, let's just say, for instance, your build was like, let's just say you went 1 gas, and you did, instead of getting Zergling speed, you went for like 1-1 first off of 1 gas, and then you kept spinning your larva properly. You kept making queens because you can afford all of this, and then after you get another 100 gas, you then start Zergling speed, and you go for like a timing. That'd be fine, because again, it's not halting your economy, but you should know, no matter what you're doing, if it's a Roachhorn, if it's a Hydroden, if it's a Spire, if it's Evo Chambers, if it's a fucking Macro Hatch, it doesn't fucking matter what you're doing. If you build that building and you physically don't have enough money to spend your larva, your build is inefficient. That build is now a bad build. And every second that goes by that it maintains being in the bad build department, where it like just can't spin its larva, your build is getting progressively worse than before. And this build you're doing right now, like, I haven't seen you play the game, but I would say this build is, you might be really good at like microing your units and like, you know, moving around the map really well. We'll find out soon. But this build is definitely holding you back really hard. This build is so far away from being efficient. It's crazy. I will. I'm gonna after this game is over. I'll definitely make you a build for Ling Bane Queen opener.
Spread creep and transfuse.
I like your scouting though. This is I love it. This is really good. I always stress the fact that whenever I coach somebody, they really need to keep tabs on the third base to see how greedy that person's being. It's really important. You saw the third as well with your Overlord, which is great. But at least now you 100% have guaranteed that he's not like being even extra greedy and taking like a 4th base or something. And you also know when he's going to take the 3rd. And right now you should know, okay, my Terran opponent's starting a 3rd base. So ideally, if your economy was proper and you had, you know, your base flowing the way it should be, this would be the time when you would need to have already started a 4th base. Like, it needs to be underway right now. It doesn't need to be done and fully saturated right now, but it needs to at least be started right now. But here's the big one. Here's the big one. Look at this. I know you've lost some drones, but losing drones is part of Zerg's life if you play macro. It's going to happen. If your opponent is good, there's a very high chance he's going to kill some drones. But get ready to look where this green box is. This is, like I said before, this is why you've already lost the game. And I said this a minute and a half ago. Look at your economy compared to the Terran's economy. This does not mean you lose the game immediately right now and you're just dead. Where it's something everybody can understand really easily. Where it's like, oh, he just killed me and I'm dead. But what this does mean is this Terran is going to ramp up supply faster than you are by quite a bit. And you're never going to keep up with him. And when he does a timing when he's at like 150 supply or something like that, you will always be trailing. And the only way you're going to win then is if the Terran makes some massive mistakes. And he like walks into some Banes or something. Otherwise, you're fucked.
Your drones are under attack. Hey, a new queen was just...
Best thing you can do against Banshees, always leave a Spore Crawler in the very center of the mineral line. Just leave it there. And have a Queen just slap the Banshees. And wherever the Banshees are camping, you can, if the Banshees are up here, and your Spore is right here, and your Queen is smacking the Banshee, just green box the top side of your mineral line and mine the bottom patch. Just pull them away for a second. Because as you pull away, you're not stopping them from mining. They just relocate to the bottom and then respread themselves out again. But you avoid more than like one drone dying if you do that. Or if you do it really fast, you avoid 0 dying. And your Queen just gets like probably like a third of the HP of a Banshee. It just smacks it like 4 or 5 times. Because even though... and then the Banshee pulls away. And if the Banshee does this like 2 or 3 times, the Banshee just dies. Because the thing about a Spore Crawler is a Spore Crawler's attack range is about this big. That's a Spore Crawler's attack range, okay? Roughly. Yeah, about this big is a Spore Crawler's attack range. But here's the bigger thing. A Spore Crawler's vision range for detection is about this big. A Spore Crawler has more detection radius than it does attack radius. So even though a Spore Crawler cannot hit a Banshee by itself, it can still see it and give the Queen the ability to smack it if it's in the center of the mineral line, no matter what direction the Banshee is hitting you from. Unless it's like in the perfect corner hitting your gas drones. Then yeah, you can't see it. But then that's when you'd be like, okay, I kind of want to have an Overseer. But doing the Spore Crawler hopping game, it's just annoying for you because it's doing things like not allowing you to spend your money properly and have a bunch of larvae still because it's distracting. Question, for base, how many drones on average should one have? Your drone count should be based off of your Terran, or as Zerg, if you're going to play reactionary, your drone count should be based off of your opponent's base count. And also partially off of what kind of a style you're going to play. But the more important one, like that's kind of advanced. The more important one is your opponent's base count should dictate your drone count. If this guy was going for a 2 base all-in, I would say you could probably get away with like 50, 55 drones, and you should stop until you kill his all-in, and then you can drone your ass off again if you want, and then go play the game from there. If this guy's on 3 base macro, your drone count should probably be around like 75. You want to stay a little bit ahead of where the Terran is, but not too much until the fight happens. And then based off that fight that happens, then you can explode your drones to whatever you want it to be. But we're talking like you want to be in a ballpark of like plus 10 over your opponent. So he's 2 base, 44. 44 is max for him. If he's 2 base 44, we're talking like 50, 55. If he's 3 base 66, we're talking 75-ish. 70, 75. You know what I mean? And then if he's 1 basing it, you want to stay probably around like 30. He's 1 base 22, you want to be probably around 30, and you want to be like, you know, if you're getting 1 base all in, you're not going to be able to just be like, let me have 2 fully saturated bases and a little bit of a third. Like your third is very likely not even going to go down if he's 1 basing you. So, you know what I mean? So trying to maintain like a plus 10, roughly, over your opponent is going to give you that little bit of an edge to give you a defender's advantage, and then also have a realistic defense against his attack. And as soon as he takes the attack, if he's being aggressive, which a lot of Terrans are, you then can do whatever you want. But we have these really fast upgrades and this just like really awful drone count. So you're going to have more powerful units, but you're going to have way less of them. Which is exactly why the army supply now is also it's starting to show this massive difference here. And just for fun, okay? I should have done this earlier. I did this last time, and I think this is a really good idea. I do this in Bronze GM sometimes. We're going to start it at 3 minutes, because 3 minutes, your build is pretty standard up until then. Let's back it up really quickly to 3 minutes, and we'll just do this. If you don't know what I'm about to do, it'll make sense in a minute. Jesus, can't spell. 34 supply. Sorry guys, I can't type at all. You can see between minute 5 and 6, that's where everything went wrong for you. And you've only lost 5 drones. You have only lost 5 drones. So it's not even like, oh man, I lost like 30 drones or something like that. But it's just because of the order of your build. It's really having a lot of problems. So minute 5 to 6, that's where a lot of your problems are. And it's because of your decision making on, you know, overreacting to a potential Hellbat timing. And also really forcing out the upgrades sooner than they should be.
Workers are being killed.
The perfect time to make upgrades, by the way, I know I haven't said this yet, but I would say a perfect time to start your upgrades 1-1 is when you start Bane Ling speed. If you're going to go Ling Bane styles. It could be Ling Bane Muta, it could be Ling Bane Hydra, doesn't really matter. But it's when you start Bane Ling speed. That's a great time to do it. Going for 1-1 before layer is a very old style. And that also, against Terran, let me just say this really quick and we'll move on. Going 1-1 before layer was something that was done against Terran a long time ago, and the reason why is because tanks used to only do 35 damage instead of 40 flat to a non-armored unit. And 40 flat means if you do have a carapace upgrade or don't, your lings are still going to die in one hit from a tank in siege mode. Back in the day when you had 1-1, you would actually reduce so much fucking damage from the Terran when Terrans would do tank timings because the tanks would take 2 hits to kill your lings. So it made like your initial engage way stronger because less shit died on the way in. That time is past though. That's not really the meta nowadays because they changed tank damage. So this build does nothing but slow you down for no reason. It doesn't give you any extra oomph in the fight really. If he's going for like some type of like, you know, a standard tank timing for Terran. Like, it obviously does something, but it's very minor. It's not worth it. It's not worth the trade-off of having a bad economy.
A new queen has emerged.
And now, obviously, a lot more drones have
Your
died.
drones are
Now
getting
16
wrecked.
drones have died, and you're still maintaining this, like, awful economy compared to Terran, which is going to make you fall further and further and further behind. Like, imagine this, okay? You remember what I said about the Spore a second ago with the detection? You have a lot of queens. Imagine if just like two of these queens got ripped off and went to the main base with this queen as well. And every time a Banshee tried to show up and attack you, 3 queens with detection just started smacking a Banshee. It would only take, like 3 queens smacking a Banshee does 27, 27, 27, which is the equivalent of, it would take 5 hits to kill a Banshee. Because 27 times 4 is 128, right? Or no, I'm wrong. Am I? I am wrong. It's 108. It's 108. It would take, wait, it would take 6 hits. Or 7, I don't know. Whatever, you get my point. So I don't want to do math on stream anymore. We're over it. I'm over it.
Oh, yeah.
But you get my point. It would not take very long for 3 queens to kill a Banshee. It would go pretty fast. Because a queen hits an air unit once every 0.7 seconds. Bronze League math. I know, I'm embarrassed now.
You are fighting your opponent.
We're going to back it up just before the fight starts. And we're just going to look at the supply right now. So right now, what's happening here, okay? Right, let's right when the attack starts, right? Right now. The attack is starting, okay? Upgrades are 5 seconds away from being done. But you are already 29 supply behind the Terran player. So here's how this goes, which is the really shitty part. You're 29 supply behind right now, and this dude has every single tool he needs to take a fight and then evacuate before he starts taking losses. You're using units that basically sacrifice themselves to fight because you're melee in this situation and he's range. So to take a fight, you're gonna take losses as the fight starts. It's just how it works. If I look at units lost, there is a 100% guarantee that the blue Zerg number is gonna go up first before the red one does. And if this Terran wanted to, he could literally kill enough units to the point to where he's going to start losing his own units because you're going to start maybe breaking him when the Banes are getting really close, and then he just pulls back. That's something that could happen, and it would just even more fuck you over. Another thing that could happen is, let's just say you trade here. Your units, a lot of them die, but you kill his army. Let's say he even somehow flies his medevacs into your queens, and the queens kill the medevacs. You could kill his entire army while trading out some of your own, and he will still have a supply lead because he's mining like double what you are, and he will produce twice as much as you can. And the reason why he's mining double what you are, almost, is because of mules. Like he's going to definitely crush your economy with mules as well as being Terran. Like he's this worker count is already, you're like 2/3 of what he has pretty much. It's not exact, but you get my point. And he's got mules on top of that, so this is like a double negative for Zerg. The economy, like you could literally, like, if I would say if I was like a referee to this game, if I was watching this, and let's say everyone's computer crashed, I would literally say the Zerg is most likely dead here, already. Like it's not a guarantee. Again, Terran can make mistakes, but you already have set up the game to lose at this point. It's just hard to recover from. So this situation now is like, if we're talking about a difficulty to defend this, if 1 is easy, 5 is like really hard. This is already like a 4. Just because of the opener of the game, not with him doing damage to you, but because of your build. All of it would have been way easier if your build's just more efficient. Because you would just, if you had so much more to defend, you could kill these and these and be like, wow, that was easy. And there you go. He ran his hellions away. He lifted off the Marines before the Banelings hit, and then he started landing on the Banes, one by one, to make them explode. Like, you might think to yourself, it's easy to get caught up in the moment and think to yourself, wow, this guy took a pretty good fight. He microed that pretty well. He like lifted up his dudes and he started dropping on my Banes and shit, and he like wasted my army. Wow. Nicely done by the Terran. This guy's pretty good. But in reality, you could have made this guy look like a fucking noob or like a really bad player if you just, instead of having, when the fight starts, a 30 supply deficit, you're actually the one that has, you know, like a 20 supply lead. Like if he shows up here and he's at 115 and you're at 86, imagine if you were at like 50 supply ahead of that and you're at like 136. And suddenly you're just like, wow, I have 100 more Zerglings here because it's 50 supply worth of lings. Or something like that. It doesn't necessarily have to be 100 supply lings, but let's say this is fully saturated and you have way more. You just have way more, you know? You have so much more going on. It's just set up to lose already, is my point. That's why every second, the first second is the most important, the second most important. Every second in the beginning of the game is more important than every later second.
The drones are under attack. They're ruining our economy. It's under attack.
For the setup of a build. In terms of production, you're getting stuck into the situation now where you're now, honestly, I would call you now you're now in an all-in situation because you have no choice. You don't suddenly get to now say, hey Terran, stop attacking me for a second because I'm gonna make drones. If you make drones, he's gonna keep harassing you and he's just gonna kill you because he's gonna be like, oh wow, you have no army and I have Marines again and you're dead. But if you do make units, this guy, like what that means if you make units though is you'll never catch up to his economy. This guy will just continuously crush you with his economy. Again, unless he takes some really bad fights, and then it gives you like these like leeways where you can squeeze out some drones.
Evolution. This mineral field, it's mined out.
If your plan right now is to go for a 2-2 Ling Bane all in, I don't disagree with that because I think that's one of your best chances to win the game. It's not a good one to feel. Like you should feel this like this is a bad situation for you to be in. But I would say that is probably your best chance to win, is if this guy makes a mistake and allows you to win doing that. But you're making drones now, so that's not obviously it's not the worst thing that you made drones. But what's happening now that you are making drones is that this guy's supply lead is going to just get astronomically crazy over you. Because you just spent 20 larvae on drones, which is, it sounds amazing. If this happened a long time ago, it would have been amazing. But it's happening now at the stage of the game where, because you made these drones, you're dead. Because he's going to attack you. Because he doesn't need, like, he's already done the way, Terran is way easier to make workers than it is for Zerg because it's straightforward. You make workers while you make an army. For Zerg, you have to choose one or the other. So reacting to your opponent's build properly is a big deal for Zerg. You need to really understand scouting, which is what we already went over earlier in the game. So I don't have to like beat your head over, you know, with it. But you reacted in a way that was overcommittal, and then your build as well screwed you over a little bit. But now the Terran he's past the worker stage. You can see he's not making any SCVs anymore. He's done. For this guy, all this guy wants to do is go up to 3 base saturation, and he's fucking solid. That's all he wants. Like, he's not still saturating SCV, going up to like 80 and being like, I gotta take a 4th. Sure, he's still taking a 4th base, but this 4th base is not gonna be a real 4th. It's just gonna be a rotated 4th. Like, he's gonna transfer SCVs from his main, SCVs from his natural, SCVs from the 3rd that are oversaturated because patches mine out to his 4th base. And the 4th will be like a planetary. So his economy is gonna be like equivalent to that of a 3 base. It's just gonna be flowing constantly. It'll never be undersaturated for the most part. So what you're looking at fighting against is like an average 3 base Terran here, for power of what he has. Which again, for you right now, it's very scary actually, because as soon as he's fully saturated, which is around, like, most Terrans will be there around the 8-minute mark, roughly. Like 7-minute to 8-minute mark, somewhere in that period of time. Most Terrans that are pretty good will be at that power point where it's now a big power spike and no more SCVs, all units. And it just, like, the unit value for them just goes way up, because now that they no longer have costs of SCVs, they have the ability now to make more racks, more factories, more starport if they want to, and just power fucking unit. And you can see in his production, this dude is making, he's not even fully keeping them up. Let's just look at what he has the ability to do, okay? What does he have the ability to do? He has the ability to make 4 Marauders, 8 Marines, a tank, 2 Hellions, and 2 Medevacs every rotation, if he wants. But he is making Marauder, Marine, Widow Mine, Medevac. So now he has the ability to make 3 Widow Mines, 2 Medevacs, 4 Marauder, 8 Marine, every single, like, 20 to 30 seconds. Because all of these units have about a 20 to 30 second build time. 21 seconds on a Marauder, 21 seconds on a Widow Mine, 18 seconds on a Marine, and 30 seconds on a Medevac. So it's, yeah, it's just going to be lots of units nonstop, and which again is, like I said, the best chance you had of winning was maybe you just go for an all-in with 2-2 timing, and maybe this guy takes a really awful fight, and you've just been doing nothing but power units, and you suddenly just, like, roll his army over and then launch a big counterattack before he's ready with it. Before he's ready to defend it with another army. But again, it would require him to take a really bad fight, so it's a terrible position to be in for Zerg no matter what. But because you made drones, look at your army value. It's 48. Look at the Terran's army value. It's 106. He's more than double your army value at this point now. So this is going to be a situation where he stems forward, he burrows his Widow Mines, and your entire army dies as it tries to connect. Like, it's gonna look like Zerg engages and just gets, like, slapped off the map. I honestly don't know what that says. And there you go. And that's pretty much what just happened, right? And now it's the point of no recovery. It already kind of was, but now there's no way, because at this stage of the game now, the Terran player is he's killing your last new mining base, which means if this dies, and then you don't have enough army to like fight him off and retake a new base, this base is starting to mine out, this base is mining out, and this base doesn't have long before it will also start mining out. You would effectively be back on like one base mining, which is not great. Like there's no way you come back from that. That was nice. That was a good connection for you, a good trade to kill those auto mines like that. But it's one of those things where like it kind of just doesn't matter. Because he's just gonna like this lead will never stop happening. Even if this army got deleted, he would still have a supply lead.
Oh no, we're running out of minerals.
So I get
Good game.
It's
Better luck next time.
It's not so much about like your decision making and your the way you're microing or anything like that. There wasn't really a lot of opportunities for me to see that. It was literally just how much your own build disrupted your own economy. Because again, this number would be lower if you had more to work with. And you would have more to work with if your own build wasn't so disruptive to your own economy. It's just a simple fact. And you should always account for the fact that as a Zerg player, if you're going to play economical, your drones getting killed is like, it's just a way of life for a Zerg. If you ever play a game where you lose 0 drones, you can literally pat yourself on the back and go, I played that game really well. Because that's not always how it goes. Really what should happen is you should always expect to lose some drones from a lot of different variations of what your opponents can throw at you. Because if your opponent throws a Banshee at your mineral line and he's like, fuck these drones, and he just flies down there and suicides the Banshee, there's a very high chance he's going to kill a drone. If he does the same thing with Hellions, there's a very high chance he might kill a couple drones. Obviously, you can take, you know, defense against that, where you're like, you can surround the Hellions before they get to your drones or your lings, and you played exceptionally well micro move there, and you denied that entirely from happening. Or you built your drones into like spores as they got shot the first time, so you can then cancel the spores later when the Banshee's dead, and you save the drones that way. And it's like, wow, I did that like a pro. It was like a boss. Sure, you know, you could effectively lose 0 drones. It is possible, but you should always expect in an average game there's a possibility you're going to take a couple drone losses, because that is literally your opponent's entire game plan. Kill some drones while making my own economy. That is his whole goal in life, is to kill your drones. So it will happen sometimes, a lot of times. And the number of drones you lose will change depending on how well you defend. But yeah, it would be easier to defend if you had a proper setup. Like it would be so much easier. But yeah, hard Nepper. I know I talked a lot, and I kept glancing at chat, and I don't think you really asked anything. If you did, I apologize for missing your questions. But right now, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask anything you're concerned about or worried about or thinking about. And what I'm gonna do is I'm going to then now, I'm gonna finish off this because I kind of forgot to finish this off. So we'll go back and get your timers of everything. But I'm gonna give you a. You don't have any questions? All right, sounds good. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna give you a comparison. This is gonna be more of an eye opener. This is what I call the eye opening experience. Okay. The eye-opening experience. EOE. Alright, check this out. 41 drones. 82 supply. 8. We're gonna go all the way to 10 minutes. 44 drones. 78 supply. And a 9. $49 drones and 98 supply. And then finally 10 minutes is the final one we're looking at here. Jesus, if I can type. 10 minutes. Can you take over control of the game at 3 minutes? I don't think you can take over control of a game. Or hold on, one second. Why would I want to do that? Because I didn't agree with his initial drones either. I'm gonna give him a checkpoint build, not improve his build he did this game. I think it's better if I give him a checkpoint build, because if I give him a checkpoint build, it's something he can strive to go for himself. It's like something that if he can meet that quota, then he's good to go. But he already kind of messed up on the whole like early mineral line. Again, little mistakes, right? Just like I talked about before, little mistakes. A drone died earlier. Lings were made after the drone died. Drones were pulled off the mineral line, or one drone was pulled off the mineral line. The mineral line was not properly saturated. Little things like that make little differences, and it's gonna the little things. Every second, the first second is more important than the second second. The second second is more important than the third second. These things cascade over the entire game. It's not like you make a mistake with your mineral line early and you just forget about it. It sets the pace for your entire build that follows the whole time. So it is a big deal. That's why I saw someone earlier being like, he talks about these mineral things every time. It's because it's fucking important. It's super important. All right, so we have your numbers here, and this is the hard nipper build, and now we'll do mine. We'll do the checkpoint build. Does the same apply for real life? Yeah, it does. Your economies. Oh, guys, we got GM again in the video. This is gonna be in the YouTube video. Cool. Sounds pretty cool, man. I'm GMing random now. See, guys, I'm a quality coach. All right. It doesn't really matter. I can't remember what map it was. Or it was this map. Hold on, I know what map it was. It was New Repugnancy. Alright, we'll just do it just for the sake of having it uniform and the same. We'll do New Repug. I am Zerg. You went for Ling Bane. Hard Nepper, really quickly before I start this, do you have a preference? Do you like to go Ling Bane Muta? Do you like to go Ling Bane Hydra? Do you like to just go Mass Ling Bane? What is your preference? Because I didn't really get to see it very much that game after the Ling Bane. But I'll give you whatever you want to do. I'll give you a quota to try and meet yourself. Ling Bane Hydra. Okay, we'll do Ling Bane Hydra for the first 10 minutes. And you like to go into Broodlords. Okay. So this build will go up to 10 minutes. That's like the I won't have everything done in that time for like the brood tech and everything, but you can see the pacing of how things will go. And I will do this in a way where it would also be safe. We'll actually be playing as if we were like, you know, playing for real, and it's like a build that would actually have defensive mechanisms involved in it. I'm not just gonna mass drones. So we're gonna stack the close patches. We have every single close patch stacked right now. It is very important to do that. It does change how quickly you can get your natural up, and that sometimes also changes the pace of the entire game, because sometimes your opponent will either block or not block your natural. Like, it gives you like maybe an extra like 10 minerals a little bit faster, which can make or break the difference of like 1 second of getting your hatchery down or not down. But it also then it develops more and more of your economy throughout the entire game. And right now we have 2 on, or 1 on one patch and 3 on the other, so now we fixed it. Now every patch is perfect. Now we're gonna get a pool and a gas. And I'm literally just going to rally my hatchery now to the gas after I started it. I'll just make 3 drones, and I'll say, alright, you guys, saturate that gas. The first drone will chill for probably like 2 seconds, and then it'll go in. The second drone will go in immediately, and the third drone will sit there, or okay, like half a second. And then the third drone will be a little bit late. By barely anything. Now I can make an overlord. But I did not disrupt my mineral line at all. And now I'm gonna make one more drone and I'll rally this drone over here to my third. So I'm at 20 supply now with an overlord on the way that was built at 19. Now I can make 4 lings and 2 queens. We're scouting his base, pretend scouting, whatever. Let's just pretend we are. We're ripping off a couple drones off the gas. Just like you did, we'll leave one on it. Leaving one on it was totally fine. I didn't mind it. And now we have Reaper defense. And now, because we spent our larva first, because we have the drone here, right? It's not the worst thing in the world that we delay the hatchery for a second, because we're spinning the larva first. That is the priority here. But now that we have the drone here, we can avoid the Reaper from blocking it off. Most Reapers do not go to your third right away and just sit there. They'll try to go to your natural first or to your main first and then catch a drone as it leaves. So again, we're spinning our larva as a priority. Let's say we scouted his build. We saw the Tech Lab, Starport Barracks, and Reactor Factory, and we're like, okay. Or, you know, the opener, more or less. We know what he's doing, basically. And we double injected our base. We can put an Overlord out here. This could be the supplement for not having a creep tumor. Overlord goes in the front now. And we just see if he's gonna push me with what's it called? With a Hellion. And now our link speed's almost done, so now we're gonna squeeze in an extra like 10 lings or so. And now if he would have attacked my base with the 2 Hellions, we would have 2 queens just like you did, and 4 lings. With
evolution complete.
What's it called? With more lings on the way. And now our third's gonna finish. Let's start another queen. Keep making my drones into larva, because that is the honestly most important part. Grab a drone, send it to my gas. Grab another drone, send it to my gas. We didn't rip off the gas line, or the mineral line. Now we can rally all of our drones to our third. We can start a layer, and we can even start a Bane nest here in just a second. And we're still making drones. We can make another creep tumor. Now let's say we scouted his expansions. And now let's say, oh, we saw the starport. We're like, oh, he's got a starport. Okay, we can throw down some spores around like 4:30. Keep making drones.
Queen birth successful.
We can saturate this gas now. No, I didn't make the main nest, my bad. I should have made that already. And now, let's just say the Hellions didn't die yet, and we're like, okay, this could be a Hellbat all-in, or like a Hellbat timing, because there is a third CC. We did see the third CC, but we're like worried about the fact that some type of a timing could happen. But the second we see a third CC, we're like, let's take a fourth base. Let's get ready to make some Banes. We're fully saturated on all 3 mineral lines now. And let's make the rest of my gases. Let's make a few Banes. Like 6 Banes, whatever, it's fine. Okay, and now we're starting Baneling speed, and now we're gonna start Evo. Because that's like the ideal time to do this at.
Newly birthed queen ready.
Okay, and we still have a creep spread going. We have Lings and Banes defending my base. We'll start a Hydrodin. And now let's just say he still hasn't committed to a big fight yet. Okay? We're making more Banes now. We had enough to defend a harassment, but now we're making more. We're starting upgrades on Evos. And we're just making more Lings for now. We're gonna make Lings and Banes up to like 120 supply. Because this is what would be ideal to defend against, like, you know, that drop he did and shit like that. Okay, now we're pretty much there. We'll split off one of my queens now to inject the 4th base. Start upgrading my Hydrogen. And now, let's go back to droning here. Because we have this is a good sized army. This is not like something super small. This is very realistically gonna defend my base on creep. And right now we also have 8 queens. We ripped off one of our creep spreaders to now be an injector. But we do have 8 queens. We're gonna make some more Banes. And now let's get another Spore here just in case there were still Banshees left alive. And we could even, at this point, we don't have to use it yet, but we could even just start a 5th base. Just because we know he's on 3 bases and we want to keep that lead, okay? Now, this is around that time when you have to like know, okay, did he take a big fight? Did something huge just happen? Did he not take a big fight? If a big fight just happened and he lost an army, you're more than welcome to like drone up to like 85-ish. If a big fight did not happen, you should probably not do that. You should probably like make an army because you need to deal with a big fight that's about to happen. But either way, we're just making our units, right? We're making our units. We have Ling Bane.
Complete.
Bane speed's done. Hydra's speed, or Hydra range is done. We're still spreading our creep.
Mineral field exhausted. Mineral field command unaccepted.
Okay, now our upgrades are done, so also we're starting to mine out in patches, so we can rotate some drones over. Start upgrades again. 2-2 started. Spires also started.
Mineral cluster expanded.
Drones are oversaturating again, and same with now with here because it's total over. So let's send 4 drones to my new base I made because the exact reason was our bases are going to start mining out. So we might as well, right? We might as well send them to the new one, make a new one to prepare for that exact reason. And now we're basically maxed out at 9 minutes, guys. This is 9 minutes. And we're going for a Broodlord follow-up with Ling Bane and full upgrades. 2-2's already on the way, Adrenal Glands is on the way, Hydra speed and range are done. We have good creep spread.
Command unacceptable.
We could even take another queen and rip it off and go inject this base. So now we have 5 queens injecting 5 hatcheries. And we could take another base. Let's take another one because we can start rotating drones off of our natural to our 5th and 6th base as well. And our 3rd will start mining out in the next like 4 or 5 minutes. You know, and at this point, like, there's not much we can do here because we're chilling until 10 minutes. But look at our Greater Spire. It's almost done. Oops, not yet. There. Greater Spire is almost done. It's very close to being done. So if we really wanted to, we could take a fight with this army, and we could remax with some Corruptors, and 2 then Broodlords. But now let's take a look at this, okay? Let's back this ish up. Now, obviously, I know there was a little bit of damage you were dealing with, being attacked by a couple of Banshees and things like that, so I get it. There's going to be a little bit of a difference in our builds here. But this build is a quota for what you should aim for in every game you play. And we'll just see, like, you got attacked around the 5 to 6 minute mark, which is why your drone count went down and your supply count kind of stagnated a little bit. It should have definitely gone up a bit more than that. And around that time, we're going to see what could happen and what supply you could have, you know. And the more supply you have, the easier it is to defend yourself. It's just as simple as that. So at 3 minutes now for us, we're at 26 workers. Drones with 35 supply. Jesus. It's so hard to see my I can't type properly because I have this big fat microphone on my face. Anyways. Alright, 4 minutes. Four minutes. 40 drones, 59 supply. 5 minutes. What is this? ViBE taking notes? I'm doing a replay analysis with Hard Nipper right now. 52 drones. 78 supply. 6 minutes. $63 drones. 90 supply. 7 minutes. And I'll send you this replay too, Hard Nepper. So you can literally copy this exact build if you want as well. You can just memorize this build because this is I made units at proper timings to defend like hellions and shit like that. On like a standard player. Eight minutes. $86 drones. 147 supply. 9 minutes. Still 86 drones. 192 supply. We basically maxed out like 5 seconds later. Yeah. And then 10 minutes. It's the same thing, right? 86 drones. 86 drones. 200 supply. 192 to 200 supply. You saw we maxed out within a couple seconds of it, so we realistically maxed out pretty much at 9 minutes. But let's look at the differences, right? We have at 3 minutes 25 drones, 34 supply versus 3 minutes 26 drones, 35 supply, or 30. Sorry. So basically, one more drone. Look at this. Nothing had happened up to that point. Nothing had happened. But because of how early the third was, and the fact that he also put for Creep Tumor first. That does make a little bit of difference in the very early stages of the game. And also the mineral not being optimally saturated for a few seconds. The patch not being optimally mined for a while. And also that one patch being ripped off into the gas. All these little things. All these little things. You have a 1 drone lead already for no reason. For like the start of the game. And then you have at 4 minutes, okay? For Hard Nepper, on the top, we have 32 drones, 58 supply. At 4 minutes for ViBE build, we have 40 drones, 59 supply. So at this point, we are now 8 drones ahead and 1 supply ahead. And again, nothing had happened at this point. This is when the overreaction started happening to what was scouted, and there was a lot more lings being started than should have been. Also, I think this is around the time when the Evo Chambers got thrown down. And then at 5 minutes, we have... for Hard Nepper, we have 38 drones, 69 supply. For me, we have 52 drones, 78 supply. At 6 minutes, we have 35 drones. This is when the damage really was taken by like, because up to this point, barely any drones had died, right? But at 6 minutes, this is when a little bit more drones started dying. And this is when the drop-off really started happening. But at 6 minutes, it's 35 drones, 76 supply, and for our build, it's 63 drones, which is honestly getting to the point where it's almost double the drone count already, and 90 supply. So you can see the supply counts aren't that different. It's 14 supply difference, so it's not that much. It's a little bit, but that's so many. Like you can tell that that's like a lot of lings now. It's a shitload of lings instead of workers. Because there's no reason why it would be that high otherwise. There's no Roach Warren. There cannot be that many queens. Things like that. And then 7 minutes, 41 drones, 82 supply. For Hard Nepper, for us, it's 66 drones, 126 supply. So at 7 minutes, we're already seeing a 40. And do you guys remember what I said too? Around what the timing hit Hard Nepper around 88 supply. And I said he could be around like 130. If his build was more efficient. That is, if we add in just 6 supply here to go to 88, and we add in 6 supply here, you got 132. you would have you would actually be ahead of the Terran in supply who hit him when the Terran was like 115 or something. So you would have this big fucking lead, right? At 8 minutes, 44 drones, 78 supply. 8 minutes, 86 drones, which is now double the drone count essentially, and also double the supply count. 147 supply versus 78. We're basically double. Yo, Major, Special, if you want to ask me a question in like 30 seconds. I love you, man. At 9 minutes, 49 drones, 98 supply, 86 drones, 192 supply. We are also, once again, still practically maintaining double-double. A full minute later, again, on top of that. And the attack wasn't going on constantly. It was like one full solid, like maybe like 90 seconds between the 5 minute mark to the 7 minute mark where the attack was really happening, of like the Banshees, the drop of Marines, things like that. And then after that was over, the rest of this was like, you know, just the follow up where it's like, okay, you're kind of screwed now because you're too far behind. And you can see it we basically maxed at 9 minutes. Because we literally maxed out like at 9:04, and there's a 98 here. So and then you know the efficiency of everything is a big deal. And if we take a look really quickly back at our build, the game stopped at 11 minutes and 30 seconds, and at right around 11 minutes, or like 10:45 to 11 minutes, is when the final fight really happened. Because you stayed, or it was more like 10:30. You stayed in the game for about 1 minute after you were dead, essentially. He attacked your base. Your upgrades, like we talked about in that game, they finished right as you got attacked at that base, which I think was around 10:30. And then your whole army died. You rebuilt some new units, but at that point, you did one more little poke on his army, and it died, and then you lost the game. So if we look at 10:30 for us, in 40 seconds, essentially, or yeah, 45 seconds from now. So instead of 10:30, at 10:45, we're going to be 2-2. And the only positive draw of your build was your upgrade timing, because you sacrificed other things to have an upgrade timing. So your 1-1 would have been faster than our 1-1 by seriously about like a full minute and a half, like a good 90-second advantage over me, because I started 1-1 way later than you did. But you did not start 2-2 for a long time after 1-1. And our 2-2s finished roughly around the same time. And your 1-1 was only to defend harass. And it wouldn't really have mattered if you had or didn't have 1-1 at all. But 2-2 is when the actual fight happened that really just sealed the deal on the game. And it's about a 15-second difference between what we just saw in the other game and what we're seeing here. So the upgrade, and then also on top of that, not only do we have 2-2, but we're gonna have 2-2 15 seconds later. But now we also already have a Greater Spire to add in as well. That's almost done. We have Pathogen Glands. That's almost done. We have the ability to go Broodlord Infestor now. We have Adrenal Glands almost done. We also have a Hydra Den fully upgraded. We have so many more expenses in this build, because in the other build it was only Ling, Bane, Queen. There was no Hydra Den. There was no there was no Hive. There was no Infestation Pit. There was no Spire. There was none of this. So this build will be a great checkpoint for you, Hard Nepper. It's just, I feel like, I know you said you had no questions, and I'll just give you my overall thought, my final concluding thought here. I think the biggest thing holding you back is literally just your build order, from what I've seen. That's the only thing I could really see that last game, in depth. And that sets the pace to either fix or create so many problems for you anyways. So if you have just a more efficient opener on how you go about doing things, that'll change everything for you. I don't think your scouting was bad. I think you actually had... I loved the fact that you scouted his expansions with your lings. I loved the fact that you scouted him with an Overlord and saw what he was doing. Like, I was watching your vision, and I myself could read what the Terran was doing off of your scout pattern. And I love the fact that you also chilled with an Overlord here as long as possible to see the follow-up. You had amazing scouting last game, or in the game we saw. It was really good. You could literally read everything the Terran was doing off of what you scouted. I think reacting to the scouting might be something you'll have to work on. And then, yeah, just your build, dude. Even if you react improperly but have an efficient build, you will still win so many more games because of that. Because if I react to someone that's not doing something that I'm really expecting, but I have like an overall just solid build, I can react incorrectly, but because my build is so solid, I still crush my opponent. It happens more than you know in StarCraft. Efficiency is very important. Anyways, guys, this has been a replay analysis, and Hard Emperor, I wish you the best of luck, man. Thank you very much for buying a lesson and you know, doing this. And thank you guys for watching. If you guys liked it, check out some more of these. I've posted so many of these now. I've done like 50 of these things. But good luck everybody on ladder. Good luck, guys. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Later, everybody. Goodbye. Bye.